The other day, one of the kids in my youth group asked me about the Christmas story, and they asked me, why are the shepherds in there? And it's true, the shepherds were not midwives, and they weren't needed to keep the animals at bay in the barn, and they didn't help in the delivery or facilitate in any way. Yet they are included in the story. So that's kind of a good question. What was important about the shepherds that they were included in this very important story? When I talked to him about it this way, I said there were many other things going on that night in the world. Many other people laughed and cried and worked and rested. Some lived, some died. But of all that occurred the whole world over on the night of the incarnation of our Lord, the only activities that were recorded are the reaction of the shepherds. So perhaps then, the reaction of the shepherds is important. What do we know about shepherds? Well, shepherds have one job, and that's to watch the sheep. We know that they don't do it for fun because the sheep are pretty much boring. The shepherds watch the sheep because the sheep need watching. They're not the brightest animals, and they're rather defenseless to predators. And shepherds keep the sheep safe from both predators, and they keep them from being stolen. And sheep need to be watched all the time, especially at night. We also know that shepherds, at least in Jesus' time, were not wealthy people. Back then, the shepherds often lived in the fields with the sheep. And if they owned the sheep at all, and they still worked as shepherds, then that flock represented their whole life savings. More often, a shepherd would work for someone else, someone who owned the sheep. And in those cases, the flock was more valuable than the shepherd watching it. But either way, if the shepherd lost the flock, the consequences would be dire. After the angels appeared to the shepherds and they told them what had happened, the shepherds went to go find the baby. And after they had seen, they returned praising and glorifying God. And the point that I want to emphasize here is that these poor shepherds dropped everything that they were doing. They walked away from the flock. They walked off the job. They left the sheep and they went to see the event, God incarnate. And then they did something more, something amazing. These lowly shepherds became apostles, telling everyone what they had seen and what they had heard. That was the impact of the incarnation. My Christmas wish for you this year is that the incarnation has the same liberating, life-giving impact on your life, and that you feel God's unconditional love from his birth. Merry Christmas.